read a couple of things that I've mentioned already. So the first thing I want to read you guys, remember how I said I was really inspired by my first grade teacher? I brought my first grade book. So this is one of the first things that I ever wrote. That was in that. This looks like it's a rough draft too. So this is called Popcorn Day. To Mom and Dad. Okay, here we go. In 2 more days, it will be Popcorn Day. There is a picture of the date, January 18th. 1 more day, January 19th. Today is Popcorn Day, and today we scared the guests. No picture. This time, I was the guest. Boo. Oh, there's another person that says, whoa. There's pure brilliance already. When they said boo, I fell down the steps. I should have put this one in the book, actually. And then we had popcorn. Oh no, hugging day is next. The end. I mean, I feel like I really set the right tone for this.
Oh, gosh.
All right, I forgot to pull up my other thing here, so give me 1 second. I'm going to apologize for reading from an ebook in a bookstore. So the other thing I want to read for you guys is Light Sleeper, which is the first story up in the book. And that's the one that kind of started the whole process of the book, so I figured it was a pretty good one to share with everybody. So this is Light Sleeper. Trevor was having trouble sleeping. Over the last few weeks, he couldn't seem to get more than a few hours before waking at the sound of a rattling window or a raccoon scurrying across the roof. He and his wife Rebecca had recently moved into a new apartment near downtown LA, an old building that creaked and groaned with floors that screamed if you walked on the wrong spots. Somehow their new landlord had convinced them that the hardwood was most definitely worth the extra $100 per month. It did look great, but at night it only made worse the troubles with Trevor's rest. Wait, he thought with sudden alertness. Am I awake? It was 3:33 in the morning. He didn't remember waking up. He lay in bed, staring at the alarm clock, wide-eyed and breathing heavily. Despite the chill in the room, his skin was damp, hair matted to his forehead. For some reason, he was afraid, unable to piece together what happened to him, like a drunk realizing that he somehow made it home. He was sure the last thing he dreamt about was harmless. Something to do with playing football, which he rather hated, but it hadn't been a nightmare by any means. He hadn't been awake long, maybe less than 30 seconds, and his mind was starting to come back. There had been a noise, a loud one, a bang, big enough to pull his body from sleep ahead of his wits. Not again, not tonight, he whispered to himself and rubbed his eyes. Rebecca stirred next to him but didn't wake. She never woke up at night, not like he did. He was tired enough to cry and awake enough to realize he wouldn't get back to sleep easily. If he had to spend another morning chugging cups of disgusting office coffee, another afternoon nodding off during a meeting, or another evening sinking deeper and deeper into the couch, he'd be willing to up and move right then. He couldn't keep waking up every night. It had to stop. Trevor's scrawny arms shivered, his bones rattled in his elbows. They had left the fan on last night, only for the white noise. Total silence in her new, cavernous apartment would have kept Trevor awake, allowing his mind to spin into unwitting overdrive. So he always left the fan humming on low at the foot of the bed, pointed at the bottom of his feet. There was a constant blast of cold air from his toes to his chin. Rebecca wrapped herself in the blankets like a burrito, leaving him with enough of the comforter to cover only about a third of his left leg. If only to avoid frostbite, Trevor willed his body into motion and reclaimed his half of the blankets. As warmth spread through his body again, he rolled from his right side to his left, then back again. His pillow suddenly felt too thin, and there was a twinge in his neck that tightened more every second. What was that bang? Did something fall over, or maybe come loose from the wall and drop to the floor? The only problem with that explanation was that nothing followed. Nothing spilled or rolled, no glass shattered, just a single heavy thwap. It sounded, Trevor thought, like an open hand smacking the wall down the hallway. But what sense did that make? Eyes glued to the obnoxiously bright alarm clock, Trevor allowed a wry smile at the silly thought. With nothing to do but fidget nervously and wonder what that sound could have been, he rolled onto his back to stare up at the ceiling. Stretching wouldn't loosen the knee knot at the base of his neck. Even with the cold on his skin dissipating, his goosebumps remained, and his body was still on high alert, still tensed up. Something was wrong. That sound. No, not a sound, it was a definite bang, and it had come from just outside his bedroom door. Trevor wasn't one to let his imagination run away with himself, but now his mind whirred with possibilities. His panic set in. His heavy breathing wouldn't slow. What the heck was that? Clang! Trevor jumped at the clashing metal against metal as the dog shifted in his crate. Oscar shook his head in his butt, making himself comfortable like he hadn't just scared the crap out of everyone. Oscar, no! Trevor grumbled, more a reaction than a command. The Wheaton Terrier picked his head up from the soft cushion in his crate and stared at him dazed and sleepy, irritated. Once Oscar realized he wouldn't be scolded any further, he snorted and put his head back down. Rebecca was still dead asleep on her side of the bed. She hadn't heard the bang or the dog. Trevor was jealous of her ability to simply turn to stone when she fell asleep. It was a trait that Trevor had admired at first, but now it annoyed him every time he lay awake at 4 a.m. and she shook the windows with vicious snoring. Years ago in their old Hollywood apartment, a series of gunshots ripped through the night from down the block. Trevor came dangerously close to wetting the bed. Rebecca never stood. Their walls were thin, so the shots might as well have been right outside the window. The whole neighborhood buzzed with excitement and fear for hours. Trevor had to tell Rebecca about it the next morning, speaking at length about the circling helicopters and police lights filling their room with red and blue. How she slept through that, he'd never know. The clock ticked over to 3:46 a.m. Trevor was wide awake and no less petrified. It didn't seem like he and his wife were in any immediate danger, but that bang echoed in his head, refusing to move to the back of his mind. He rubbed his eyes again in frustration, but he was too scared to put his arms outside the blanket for long, so he yanked them right back under. His feet were pulled up in the fetal position, shoving his back against Rebecca's arm. He felt like he was 5 years old, sleeping alone in a new, strange room that he didn't like. This is ridiculous, he thought, with a quick inhale to gather his courage, and he stretched out his legs and pulled his arms out from under the blanket. His muscles loosened and his bones creaked almost as loud as the floor. He already felt better. Now he had to go out and look. He had to know what that noise was. There was no way he'd be able to sleep again without at least some idea of what happened out there, and he'd had too many sleepless nights lately. Even though his own mind warned him against keeping his arms outside the shield of his blanket, Trevor held both arms out in defiance, stretching the rest of the sleep from his legs. See? Nothing, he thought proudly, trying to convince himself that he wasn't scared. He had been afraid of the dark a long time ago, the way that all children are, but now that he was an adult, the dark was always welcome after a long and stressful day. Bang! Trevor's arm shot back under the blanket, fast enough to throw an elbow into Rebecca's right arm, and she barely stirred. He'd have to explain that bruise in the morning, but there was that sound again. That same massive bang. Now hearing it while fully conscious, Trevor knew it was in the hallway, much closer to their room than he liked, and that lingering cold in his spine moved like an icy wind through his guts. He cowered in the bed, back under the protection of his company. But Trevor wasn't going to lay in bed and simply wait to be murdered. He gathered all the courage he could, slid the blanket off his body, and lowered his feet down to the floor as quietly as possible. If there was something out there, he didn't want it to know that he was awake. Trevor wasn't a big guy. He was tall but lengthy, a runner, not a fighter. But he was scrappy, and with the element of surprise on his side, he thought he could win a fight with an intruder. The hardwood floors were somehow even colder than his feet. The bed creaked as he shifted his weight from the mattress to the floor. Trevor eyed the door, focused on the glass knob, half expecting it to turn. But it didn't move. Not yet, anyway. When he put all his weight on his feet, the floorboards betrayed him. They rubbed together so loudly he thought he might have broken one. He stopped and waited to see if there would be a response from outside the door. Maybe, he thought, the floorboards in the hallway will be on my side and give me a sign that something is out there. He listened, but heard nothing. Somehow that was worse. With his cover blown, Trevor crept across the bedroom toward the dresser. He stepped on dirty laundry, pushed around the boxes of books they had yet to unpack, and did his best to avoid the loudest parts of the floor. The top drawer of his dresser slid open, and he reached into the pile of folded socks. He rooted around, shoving aside a belt, a watch, for a moment worried that he wouldn't find what he was looking for, that he'd left it packed in some random bag and would never be able to find it before his door burst open with a blood-sucking vampire ready to drain them both. But that's when his fingers grazed the small box and he lifted it out with momentary relief. The knife inside was a gift from his wife's uncle. Receiving a lethal weapon for Christmas in front of his in-laws struck him as lunacy, but Trevor had thanked him politely and pretended to check the blade's sharpness as if he knew what he was doing. He never would have bought a knife for himself, even after living in LA for nearly a decade. He doubted he'd actually be able to stab somebody, should the situation arise. But if there really was an intruder, he would have to thank Uncle Robbie profusely the next time he saw him. Trevor flipped the blade up and made sure it was locked into place before turning back toward the door. He took a step forward and waded carefully through the mess of clothes, but his toes caught on something. He kicked his foot out of the tangled jeans, or whatever the hell Rebecca had left by his side of the bed, and accidentally yanked the fan cord right out of the wall. The blades quickly slowed and came to a stop, leaving the room in complete, devastating silence. Trevor held his breath. He moved even slower than before. The heavy quiet made every breath a scream, every footstep an earthquake. The silence also revealed a rustling sound on the other side of the door, but it was hard to tell exactly what it was. It sounded like only the wind against the walls, but in his heightened state, any sound at all would put him on edge. Memory crept up then, one that seemed funny before, but now made him feel stupid for not seeing it as a warning. On a lazy Sunday evening the week before, Oscar had been playing fetch up and down the hallway, his favorite game, when he stopped on a dime and glared at nothing behind Rebecca. She and Trevor giggled like idiots until Oscar started whimpering. Something in the shadows had scared him. They assumed it was a spider. It was the season for it, after all. They couldn't go 2 days without finding one in the shower or the laundry. But they didn't find one that day. Maybe Oscar saw something they hadn't. He wondered if that thing was on the other side of the door now. Trevor shook the odd memory out of his head and continued toward the door, knife in hand, ready to strike. He flipped the knife and pointed the blade up. He'd heard you have more control of the blade that way. Where had he heard that? Probably a TV show, and it was probably wrong. He looked down at the shiny metal, his eyes adjusted to the darkness, and swiped the air with a few quick jabs to test out his agility with the blade. Shit, he thought. Knife's not going to do much good if it's a ghost. As he reached for the doorknob, he prayed he would find only darkness beyond it. He didn't know if he'd be able to kill anyone, but with his wife asleep in the bedroom, he knew he had to try. His hand wrapped around the glass knob, and as quietly as he could, he twisted it. He made a loud cracking sound, shifting inside the old wood of the door. If something was out there, it knew he was coming out. Trevor pushed open the door and peered into the long, dark hallway. Weak yellow light spilled in through the curtains from the side window. 10 feet in front of him, the whole apartment fell into full darkness. Trevor's plea for an empty hallway was granted, but as with most wishes, it turned out to be the opposite of what he truly wanted. What the hell made that sound? He thought about calling out into the dark, but the air caught in his throat. The light switch was near the office, halfway down the hall, well into the darkness. Trevor crept forward, realizing how cold the place was. Their building was built in the 20s, so everything was wide open and drafty, which was fantastic during hot summer days when the breeze was a lifesaver, but now, just before winter, the cold stuck to the walls, swirled around the rooms, down the hallway, and through his bones. The creaking floor squealed again as Trevor stepped into the blood. The knife was still clutched in his fist, ready to stab at everything that leapt from the shadows. His other hand reached out for the switch. Trevor pulled it back when he realized that he would have to reach across the open door of the office to flip it on. The killer could easily be lurking in the pitch-black room, waiting for him to reach out across the opening where he or she could swing a machete down on his arm, cutting it off at the elbow. There's no way he was reaching out for the light now, not with that image inside of his head. Instead, he put his back to the opposite wall and slid over to peek into the office from as far back as he could get. Nervously, he stepped past the door and looked straight into the empty room. Nobody was there. In that moment of opportunity, Trevor lunged forward and flipped the light switch up, an action Rebecca would have called cartoonish and silly had she been awake to see it. Bright light flooded the hallway, revealing the empty office and part of the kitchen. With nothing in front of him to cut, he lowered the knife and finally exhaled. He walked into the office and turned on that light tube for good measure. Nothing. His laptop was there, as was his iPad. A burglar would have seen those things and snatched them for sure. He left the light on and walked down the hallway toward the kitchen, a confident mood bouncing his sled. The floor lamp switched on with a pop. Its brand new LED bulbs buzzed, and the place lit up like it was daytime. Trevor looked around the cupboards for a moment, sure he would find a plate or a mug that had fallen and shattered. They were still unpacking the kitchen after all, so things may have shifted around, or a box crumbled under the weight of whatever was piled on top of it. But he found nothing out of place. Everything remained where they left it the night before. He switched off the light, the fear completely drained from his body now. His arms and legs felt loose and free. The muscles in his neck finally let go of their tense grip. After a quick once-over in the dining room and living room, Trevor felt a million times better, if a bit childish for being so scared in the first place. The front door was still locked and deadbolted, the windows all closed and secured, the TV off. Trevor thought for a moment about watching a movie since he was up, but with his fear subsiding and the adrenaline slowing, his eyes grew heavy again. Yeah, I need to get some sleep, he mumbled to himself and grabbed a granola bar as he walked through the kitchen. He knew damn well that eating before sleeping gave you bad dreams, but he was starved, and at 4 a.m. with only a couple hours left to sleep, he could handle the nightmare. As he worked through the loud wrapper of the granola bar, his mind drifted back to the bag. What had that been anyway? With a grin pasted on one corner of his mouth, he decided it didn't matter. There was nothing in the house, and nothing was broken. He and Rebecca loved their new place, loved how big and open and old-fashioned it was. If it came with a few quirks and some new noises for them to adjust to, so be it. It was an old building, what did they expect? He moved back down the hallway and turned off all the lights that he'd turned on. The place fell into darkness again. Trevor finished the bar in 2 huge bites, and with a mouthful of nuts and raisins, tossed the wrapper into the office trash can. With no more regard for the creaking floorboards, he walked back to the bedroom door and twisted the knob. Rebecca was of course asleep, mouth agape, snoring ever so ladylike. Bang! Trevor whipped around, the sound only a few feet behind him. It sounded like a baseball bat hitting a thin plank of wood. His relief at finding nothing in the light now felt like a momentary break from reality. Trevor reached into the pocket of his pajama bottoms, but he left the knife on the kitchen counter. With Rebecca still dead to the world in the bed, he raced toward the hallway light switch. This time, in a frenzy, he reached across the open office door. The moment before his fingers touched the switch, a hulking, silhouetted figure leapt out of the empty room, grabbed his arm, and let loose a high-pitched scream. An arm draped in thick black cloth shoved Trevor away from the light switch and forced his body to the ground. His cheek hit the floor with a distinct crunch. He tried to yell, but a second hand covered his mouth. His free arm flailed, grasped at the air behind him. His eyes searched wildly for any sign of who or what was attacking him. Oh God, it's real, his mind screamed. The figure wore a deep hood that shielded its face. It let out a growl like an animal about to sink its teeth into a nice meal. Trevor tried again to twist his back and get a look behind him, but the thing had him pinned. Who are you? He pleaded. The thing answered with a deep-throated clicking. Then it plunged something into Trevor's lower back, cutting through the dense muscle, scraping against his spine. The tip of the knife hit the hardwood floor and finally stopped. He couldn't scream through the creature's hand, but he opened his mouth wide in shock. The chill of fear that had spread from his neck was replaced with hot, searing pain as the figure pulled the knife from his back with a sickening whip. The blood pooled on the wood around him, staining the expensive floor. The dark figure reached down and grabbed Trevor's hair, pulling his head up and back, exposing his throat. In his final moments, Trevor wanted to know what it was, where it came from, how it had made that bang without being seen. But he only muttered a single, blood-soaked word. Why? The thing leaned down, its head dipped into the yellow light of the street lamp. Trevor saw its face. It looked human, only not quite assembled properly. Because you came looking, it hissed into his ear. Trevor caught a glimpse of this strange, curved blade in the figure's hand. No, not a hand, some sort of claw, scaly and greenish gray. Trevor wanted to scream all over again. What the fuck is... Trevor's final thought was cut short as the long blade raked across his throat and sliced through his windpipe and arteries with ease. More blood shot onto the floor in quick, gushing bursts. His head dropped and his eyes fell to the bedroom door still cracked open. Finished with its work on Trevor, the murderous figure stood and turned its attention to the bedroom door, to Rebecca, sound asleep and happily dreaming. With his last breath, Trevor watched the figure raise a hand and pound on the wall outside the door. One hit, a single loud bang that rattled the windows and shook the cupboards. Trevor smiled to himself. Good luck, he thought. She'll sleep to the end of the world. He rested his head gently on the floor in the pool of his own thickening blood. He grew more tired by the second. At last, Trevor closed his eyes and drifted off to sleep. That's it.
It's okay, I'm used to it. He wrote his first murder story when he was 7.
I did. It's amazing.